Hi, my name is Scott, and I have a tale to share. My backstory: my parents abandoned me at a railroad station when I was 16 years old. Was intentional. Not due to a lack of memory, they intentionally did it. My captors intended to test my navigational skills and see how long it would take me to get home. Not once did I return. But they tracked me down 20 years later. Reason being, they did not miss me. This was not due to any feelings of remorse. They came to me in search of a solution to a problem, whether it financial, social, or political. Remember when I said no? Feeling guilty wasn't the end of it. Even members of my own family betrayed me. Their word is divisive. They attempted to demolish all of my constructions. I lay partially asleep against the vehicle window, listening to music that drowned out the traffic noise, while the scorching July sun clung to my skin. Up front, my parents Noah and Mia were arguing about something I had long ago stopped caring about. Miles of Alabama backroads were sliced by the seemingly unending road ahead. My elder sister Luna is a college student, and we had just spent the weekend visiting her. Mom made passive-aggressive remarks about how I should be more like my sister. Dad seldom acknowledged either of us unless it was to bark in order, and Luna pretended everything was perfect the whole trip. I was used to it. In our household, it was like any other day, full with lessons and tests. As the vehicle came to a stop, I widened my eyes. Just along the roadway stood a dilapidated and virtually deserted rail station, a remnant of a bygone era. As soon as Dad drove into the lot, he stopped the vehicle next to two vintage vending machines. "Go get a soda for me," he murmured, avoiding eye contact. Averting my gaze, I ripped my headphones from my ears. What on earth? Mom swiveled around in her chair and gave me a fake grin that never really lit up her eyes. "Whip up a glass of water for me and go get one for your dad, sweetie." As I pushed open the door, I let out a sigh. As I walked out onto the uneven pavement, the oppressive heat slammed down on me. It was pointless for me to argue. Anyway, it was a bust. Adjacent to the station entrance, the vending machines sat with their decals flaking off after years of sun exposure. As I pressed the buttons for their beverages, I pulled out a crumpled $5 note from my pocket and dropped it into the slot. As the clock ticked down, the machines moaned and spat out a bottle of water and some tepid Coke. Expecting to find the vehicle waiting where I had left it, I turned with bottles in hand. Trust me, it wasn't. Nothing was in the lot. My brain was temporarily oblivious to what it was witnessing. Maybe they had already relocated. Could it be that they were just invisible? My heart raced as I cautiously advanced, my eyes darting over the vacant parking spots. A ringtone came from my phone. Message sent by Mom. "Find out how far it takes you to reach your house." This, as an exercise in resolving issues. Not formed in my gut, was intentional. It wasn't funny. They abandoned me here. I pressed the call button with clumsy fingers. No stopping there. Here I go again, once again. I kept hearing the same deafening beep. As I stood there, the plastic crinkled under my fingertips as I held the Coke firmly. Even though I could barely make out the faraway honk of a train horn, my pulse was racing. Their return was imminent. My reaction should have been shock. It ought to have broken my heart. However, a strange silence descended over me instead. Their previous actions were similar to this one. I was made to stand outdoors during a storm when I was 13 years old because I had neglected to take out the garbage. Because I missed the bus when I was 14 years old, my punishment was to walk the 6 kilometers home from school through the rain. Another lesson had been learned, just another twist to prove I was expendable. A few individuals shifted their attention, completely disregarding the 16-year-old girl who stood there, armed only with her wallet and an intensifying feeling of anger. Participate in their game, examined. Money I saved while doing summer employment. Got closer, the elderly guy at the ticket booth hardly raised an eyebrow. In what direction is the closest bus stop? Despite the upheaval going on inside of me, I asked with a firm voice. He gestured toward the road ahead, a few miles in that direction. Nodding, I was already in motion. Another ding, it was my phone. Mom sends another SMS. "You have no right to contact your aunt. According to your dad, you're on your own to find a solution. That number has been banned." After that, I followed their advice to the letter. After 2 rings, a known voice answered the phone. "Hi, Scott!" Sucking hard, I choked. I need your assistance, Bella. Though I was shaking on the inside, my voice remained firm. Hi, Scott! Apprehension came over sharply in Marigold's voice. So, where have you disappeared to? I clutched the phone so tightly that my knuckles became white as I forced myself to swallow. I found myself standing alone at a train station, deserted by the same individuals said to love me. Even though my chest was racing, my voice sounded remarkably calm. Bella, they abandoned me. They simply sped off. A quick gasp for air followed a moment of silence. You must remain seated, my darling. I will come and retrieve you. It has been 20 years since then. My firm, Haven Developments, has a corner office, and I was standing there, looking out over the Austin cityscape. While the city below me was bustling with activity, I was alone in my office as memories from the past began to resurface. There were still a number of unanswered calls on my desk-bound phone. The number of them is 39. The mysterious people went unnoticed. I focused on the one that was really important. The name is Vivian. It had been 20 years since I'd seen that name. Playing the first voicemail made my stomach turn. Hold on a second, Eric. Your parents located you. Please, lend them a hand. My hold on the phone became more firm. The name in question, the tone. She continued to address me as Eric, as if nothing had happened, as if we were children. After deleting the voicemail, I let out a quick breath. The one after that was just sobbing. She sounded really anxious by the third. For the sake of Scott, please. My dear, you have no idea. Their situation is dire. Just give me a holler. Just as I was about to slam the phone down on my desk, I put it down. I was located. What it said was very clear to me. 20 years ago, I left them with just a bus ticket and an intense desire to live. I fought my way through college while working 3 jobs and slept in a moldy studio apartment. Haven Developments was constructed with the life they sought to eradicate in every brick. They wanted me back in just as I was about to be free. I sat down and ran my hands through my hair, a little trembling in my palms. Despite the fact that my thoughts were racing, the reflection in the glass seemed serene and collected. I was anticipating this day. The timing is unexpected, however. I came across a name I hadn't talked to in 20 years when browsing my voicemails. One Noah, the man I call Dad. Before hitting play, I paused for 30 seconds. Something in me froze the second his words reached my ears. Do you really believe you've surpassed us? I could hear something familiar in his garbled speech, acidity and alcoholic beverages. You were formed by us, Scott. We are responsible for anything that you own. His endless babbling made me tighten my jaw. Is it your belief that we can be erased, following everything that we accomplished for you? A scowl escaped his lips. So, you know what? That is not how life works. Thank you, but no. There was a sudden stop to the voicemail. A message appeared a split second after that. Scott, your father feels utterly let down by you. Speak to each other. Get in touch with us. With my breath held in, I fixed my gaze on the message. I am let down. They just left me at a train station and disappeared. Now I'm to blame for their disappointment? Anger was boiling up. Nothing had changed. Not at all. With a knot in my throat, I swallowed and slumped back in my chair, my fingers curling around my phone. Standing there on the train station by myself, the 16-year-old me wanted to scream. I was no longer 16, however. You were mistaken. It wasn't just me. Plus, I had no intention of running this time. I responded to Vivian by opening my messages and typing her a message. Saturday at 7 in the morning at Denny's. Singly, or in no way at all, is acceptable. After hitting send, I put my phone down and turned my gaze back to the city. The first time I'd seen my sister in 20 years would be tomorrow morning. I felt completely at ease this time. With her anxious eyes searching for me, Vivian strode hesitantly inside Denny's, where I was already waiting. She seemed almost identical. The same taut shoulders, the same high cheekbones. However, something new had been introduced throughout the years. Her stance somewhat sagged, those wrinkles around her lips. From the beginning, she had been the ideal daughter, that one who did as told, who made everything okay again, determined who participated. But right now, it seemed as if she were hiding something from everyone. Our gazes locked. We remained still for a brief instant. After that, she crossed over and hid a lock of hair behind her ear. Exciting to meet you, Eric, I answered after a long, leisurely sip of my coffee. My name is no longer Eric. Who am I? Scott here. That grin of hers wavered. I see. I apologize. With her fingers tinkering with the laminated menu, she slipped into the booth across from me. She said that it had been quite some time. It went unanswered. I waited for her true purpose to be revealed while I closely observed her. With a sigh, she placed the menu on the table. You seem lovely. My eyebrow was arched. You seem anxious as well. A low-volume giggle escaped Vivian's lips, escaping her eyes. All right then. Let me break it down for you. Yeah, Viv, it's not hard at all. I drew nearer. Something is on your mind. Get it out. She pursed her lips tightly. She let out a long breath after that. Mother and father. They're having trouble. Yes, I saw it. She proceeded without waiting for my reply. The words just came out. Warmed up, worked on. My dad went broke gambling. Debt accumulated for Mom. Yes, Scott, they are drowning. The property is being foreclosed upon. Fixated on her, I clamped my jaw. Help is required, she went on to say. People rely on you. I exhaled slowly and deliberately. When Vivian realized she owed them nothing, she recoiled in fear. Please do not feel obligated to forgive them. She choked on her words. All I ask is that you pay attention. Encircling my coffee cup, my fingers clenched. What a daring move. Pay heed. Had anyone paid attention to me while I stood alone at that rail station at 16 years old? Was anyone paying attention when I shivered in the rain because developing one's character was more essential than practicing fundamental decency? With a mix of anger and weariness twisting in my gut, I reclined against the booth. My voice was as steely as steel when I told Viv that they hadn't just made an error. At a rail station, they abandoned me, with the intention of doing so. She grimaced. Returned they did. 1 hour after that, I chimed in. And who was to blame for that? As if a mirror were to break in half, the space between us broke. Years of keeping quiet, of avoiding confrontation, of acting as if nothing had happened. Vivian twisted her fingers in her lap and blinked quickly. They expected you to return home. Their fear was that you would... Her voice broke as she drifted off. I completed it for her because they believed I would crawl back, as I had previously done. Breathing shallowly, she gazed at the table. That was my protest. No longer am I their daughter, Vivian. For quite some time I have not been. I remained firm as her shoulders quivered. I took a handful of cash from my pocket and set them down on the table. The next time they attempt to get in touch with me, I will be less nice. Sitting still, Vivian gazed down at the table. I turned and left without a backward glance. To me, it seemed like that was it. Yeah, I was completely incorrect. I attempted to ignore my talk with Vivian the next day by immersing myself in my job. It had made me feel bad, but I wasn't going to let it ruin my day. I had created something substantial, and the past was just that, the past. Something that not even they could claim as their own, in my mind at least. I was half asleep when someone started pounding on my office door. As she stood at the doorway, my helper Jenny's expression was one of uncertainty and unease. Hey, you may be interested in this. She cautiously entered the room, held out her phone, and then handed it to me. Cursing, I accepted it. The Facebook screen was visible. Reading what was on the screen made my throat tighten. Even though we gave our everything for our daughter, she left us when we were elderly. One more post below it. How is this her way of saying thank you for the strength we instilled in her? Heartless. Eventually, a scalding sensation began to rise up my neck. As if they had been the ones to endure hardship, they were portraying themselves as victims. The number of comments was in the hundreds. Outsiders casting judgment on me, sharing individuals' posts. My business's page was even tagged by a few. My gut knotted up as I scanned through the replies. Holy cow! Some children really have no shame for the way they disrespect their parents. What a shame that is, you ungrateful slug! Let her rot in peace, please. Pounds can transform individuals. What a sham! I frantically pressed the phone against my desk. Eliza became a little tense. I hesitated to show you because I didn't want it to spread. Customers are seeing it. Even Haven Development's page has some negative evaluations where some individuals have accused you of being a heartless con artist. In my ears, my heart was pounding. It wasn't as simple as posting on Facebook. A full-scale onslaught was what it was. The shaking in my hands subsided as I inhaled deeply and slowly. If anybody else is aware of this, who are they? Eliza held her breath. At least a few employees, several of our more substantial patrons. I believe that a few of them are patiently for your response. Slowly, I nodded. Very well. Very much, Jenny. Allow me to take care of it. I retrieved my phone and phoned a number that I hadn't contacted in a long time the second she departed. After the third ring, Vivian took the call. Hello, Eric. Her tone was cautious. I clutched the phone closer. I thought you were aware of this. There was an extended period of quiet between us. At last, she let out a sigh. They are so frantic, Eric, even though I warned them not to. An unenthusiastic giggle escaped me. People who are desperate don't harm their own offspring. As much as Vivian tried, all they wanted was assistance. According to them, this is their only option for communicating with you. Scoffing, I said. How about deceiving? Is it by inciting complete strangers to hate me? Vivian remained silent. She was too blind to see me, but I nevertheless shook my head. It was foolish of me to assume they would change. She was unable to finish her sentence before I ended the call. After then, a text message arrived at my phone. You impenitent cretin. Delete that post. The text on the screen held my attention. A menacing stillness is slowly enveloping me. My own social networking account was next, and I began to write. In order to avoid responsibility, some individuals alter the past. That won't happen. I dropped my phone onto my desk and pushed publish. An altercation was what they desired? Very well, I say we battle. Some Facebook postings seemed like plenty, at least to me. My workplace was the next stop for them. Damage control, keeping tabs on our business's social media, convincing customers that our job was unrelated to my personal life, and ignoring the many messages from long-lost relatives with comments on a tale they were completely ignorant of made for a hard week. The intercom on my desk crackled to life while I was operating on little sleep, powered by coffee and pure determination. Scott, behold. Eliza seemed unsure about herself. A pair of senior citizens are certain that they must see you. I froze. The coffee I was sipping on took on an abruptly harsh flavor. Were their identities disclosed? Despite knowing the answer, I still asked. Jane let out a frustrated groan. According to them, they are your parents. In an effort to maintain an expression of neutrality, I let out a quick breath. Just let them know I'm at a meeting. Moment of silence. Next, they're causing quite a commotion. They were, without a doubt. After putting my cup down, I retreated to my seat and headed for the lobby. I could see them as soon as I entered the building. Mia was going all out, using a crumpled tissue to dab at imaginary tears. With his arms crossed and a look that suggested he was looking for a battle, Noah stood by her side. Mia drooped her chin the moment she laid eyes on me. "My darling!" Her cries were loud enough to turn heads. "Is it that bad that you won't even approach your mom?" I froze in mid-step, my jaw clenching. Whispers of workers surrounded us. Some others took out their phones and started filming, as if this were a live reality show. The roiling bile in my throat was swallowed, and grimace of sneering turned Noah's face. "You're now just like those folks, huh? Those people who lose track of their origins." I kept my composure. "Get out of there. Right now." Mia sobbed uncontrollably, holding her chest as if she were about to pass out. "You were born to me, Scott. I brought you up. And now you disregard us as insignificant?" Fists clasped. "You don't mean anything to me." The lobby resounded with a gasp as a whole. There was a brief hush. After then, Noah's cheeks flushed. "So you believe that the amount of money you have gives you superiority over the rest of us?" Now he was trying to get people's attention by raising his voice. Mia began sobbing into her hands as she really fell to her knees. "Our only desire was to meet with you and have a conversation, but now you're really nasty." The audience began to whisper under their breath. There were a few others who seemed uneasy. A number of people seemed amused. It was plenty for me. I took a step forward, my voice lowered to an icy silence. Security will remove you if you do not vacate the premises immediately. With his voice lowered to a low, poisonous pitch, Noah cautiously approached me. Scott, we owe you money. You are the person you are now because of us. Mia's tears ceased abruptly. With a look that was colder than sadness, she raised her face to the light. Our love will remain, my darling. You are our daughter forever. I let out a short breath and then shifted my attention to the security man stationed nearby. Show them around! A sour chuckle escaped Noah's lips. It's a mistake you'll come to regret. As if nothing had transpired, Mia got to her feet and smoothed her clothing. She said something softly, barely audible to anyone in the vicinity, about the poor animal. Excessive wealth without sufficient emotion. Their exit was escorted by security, and I could hear their words reverberating through the glass doors. I ought to have seen they weren't through yet. This was just the first stage. A lawyer wrote to me the next day. Frowning, Eliza placed the heavy packet on my desk. A courier delivered this. This comes from a legal firm. An immediate response eluded me. I couldn't help but gaze at it as a strange feeling of familiarity swept over me. Yet another escalation. Yet another effort to reintegrate me into the chaos from which I had fled for so long. I carefully lifted it, ripping the lid apart. I felt my heart race as soon as I glanced at the first sentences. A claim was being made against me by my parents under the statutes of filial duty. A brief, unenthusiastic chuckle escaped me. Absolutely unbelievable. I was threatened with legal action as they attempted to compel me to provide for their financial needs. I was now being held responsible for the actions of those who abandoned me at a train station when I was 16 years old and who had disregarded me for 20 years. Squeezing my nose, I tossed the note onto my desk. On the edge of the threshold, Eliza lingered. Is everything all right? I blew my nose to let out a breath. Reach out to Joe via phone. Seeking legal counsel is essential. With a nod, she vanished. Shortly after, I was pacing my office with the phone held to my ear, listening to Joe's soothing voice on the other end. After I read him the letter, he spoke out. At least on paper, they might be right in certain places. The pacing ceased. What? You mean they can just leave me when I'm a kid? I owe them money now, however. It was a heavy sigh from him. It's not often, but depending on the specifics, certain courts may sustain such instances. Even while filial piety is not strictly enforced in Texas, someone may still try to make your life unbearable if they wanted to. A hand rested on my forehead while I did so. Absolutely unbelievable. According to Joe, their goal is to avoid dragging your name through a protracted legal fight by hoping that you would settle and give them what they want. I let out a sharp chuckle. Then they have no idea who I am. My phone beeped off the hook. On the screen, my mother's name appeared briefly. I almost disregarded it. On the verge. Then I pushed agree before I could stop myself. Something snapped in me. Tell me what you need. I sounded robotic. The lovely, sugary voice of Mia came through. Scott, my darling, we are only seeking a resolution. If you could just provide us a hand, we could avoid this whole ordeal. My jaw was tightened. Assist you? My tone sounded distant. Following your treatment of me? A theatrical sigh from her lips, as if I were being unreasonable. That happened eons ago, my darling. When families argue, it may quickly escalate. Errors are made by parents. Still, we're your parents, and things aren't looking well for us. My hand clenched around the phone. Don't think you're my parents. On the same day that you departed, you forfeited it. A pause ensued. After that, she became more formal in her speech. We are prepared to go to court if you want to oppose us. Would you really want to be embarrassed? The absurdity almost made me chuckle. She foolishly believed she could humiliate me into submission. My rage seemed to harden into an impenetrable crystal. Stay calm and give me a chance, I proclaimed. We ended the call. I remained still for what seemed like an eternity, my pulse unwavering. Rage, not fear, drove her. The idea that they could break me was theirs. They were completely unaware of their counterpart. After that, they targeted my company. The unexpected was expected of me. Naturally, they wouldn't quit after the lawsuit, the social media circus, and every frantic effort to reclaim my life. But anticipating something doesn't lessen its impact when it arrives. Eliza knocked and peered inside as I was at my desk, looking through documents. She looked anxious. She cautioned that you should probably check your email. My eyebrow was arched, yet I still reached for my phone. I felt sick to my stomach the second I saw the subject line, with respect to the claims made against you. So I opened the email. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I felt compelled to tell you this, Scott. Someone has sent us many anonymous notes alleging that you have a checkered past when it comes to money, especially with your relatives. You have a history of dishonesty, they say, and you've stolen money and ignored your duties. Our professional relationship is important to us, yet we need clarity on certain claims due to their nature. The sender was a major backer of our company. I continued to scroll down. I feel my heart racing. Included were images of emails sent from fictitious accounts, each of which relayed the same narrative. That I had embezzled funds belonging to my own parents. The fact that I had founded my business on the backs of their efforts. I was nothing more than an imposter and a liar. I yelled out in frustration and threw my phone onto the desk. I stiffened into a fist. Eliza kept a wary eye on the entrance. Does anything happen? Breathing slowly was something I had to do. Someone is out to get me. A wrinkled line appeared on her forehead. Which one? In a flash, I reached for my phone and began to ring. With whom do you agree? One of my business partners and I were on the phone 15 minutes after that. He was hesitant to say anything. I just can't believe this, Scott. However, there is an abundance of these communications. Can you tell me their origin? I inquired, my voice lowered. No sound. Unfortunately, an IP address associated with your parents was found to be associated with a few of the accounts. While clutching the edge of my desk, I closed my eyes. They had stepped across the boundary. They had attempted to use my guilt as a weapon against me for a long time. After it didn't work, they went to extreme lengths to publicly shame me. What comes next? They were aiming to destroy everything that I had constructed. They were mistaken. Reason being? This. It was wartime. My public relations team was summoned to an urgent meeting. Their expressions were solemn as they sat across from me. They all cleared their throats, except one. What does our team think? Stay away from the limelight. Keep silent. Allow this to pass. I was rather strong in my response. No, quiet is not an option for me. Forget it. I shifted my attention to my laptop and began to compose my personal statement, my fingertips caressing the keys. My parents were manipulative, and I suffered for years because of it. It was for my own safety that I stepped away. They have been attempting to ruin my livelihood for the last 20 years. I refuse to let them too. Post was hit. Please let them find me. My fear had subsided. A few hours later, a text message sounded on my phone. Noah was the sender, you impenitent cretin. The worst decision you've ever made has just been made. Before finally penning down my parting words, I gazed at the computer for what seemed like an eternity. I will pursue legal action if you persist. Do not miss this opportunity. I sent it, received no reaction. Yet I was aware. Nothing could stop them. Was war their goal? Very well. Sure, I'd give them a go. I got a summons from the court the next day. Eliza paled as she entered my office and placed a heavy packet on my desk. She said with great care that it came from a legal firm. Immediately, I recognized the sender. I carefully picked up the envelope and tore it open. I was right. The big official writing right there at the top proved it. The Holloway's sons, Noah and Mia and Scott, the groundskeeper? State law mandates filial piety, which is disregarded. I couldn't help but chuckle bitterly. This was, therefore, their last tactic. After psychological manipulation, embarrassment, and outright sabotage failed, they turned to the law. Eliza stood beside the entrance for a while. So, what's your plan? With a quick exhalation, I snatched my phone from my pocket. Reach out to Joe via phone. Inform him that I am leaving. In his office, Joe was seated across from me. On our shared polished oak workstation, the lawsuit unfolded. Skimming the pages, he shook his head in disapproval. At last, he looked up and stated, "They have a weak case." Although Texas does not have stringent filial responsibility regulations, they might damage your company if they get enough attention. Fists clasped. We will decide how to make it public after that. Then Joe arched an eyebrow. Are you positive on that? Having made up my mind, I nodded. I've had my fill of playing defense. Now is the moment for individuals to fully understand themselves. I wrote my statement that night. I said it all. Regarding my parents, I was quite forthright, referring to the teachings that were imposed upon me. Concerning the evening of the 16th, they abandoned me at a railroad station, never to be seen again. I was thinking about how they would only come back when they were in a bind. The post became widely shared before morning. It didn't take long for the situation to change. It was my parents' behavior that made the same strangers who had previously berated me for my lack of gratitude so repulsed. Outrageous comments expressed in my defense came pouring in. It goes beyond being cruel. Who would leave their own kid for dead and then come back 20 years later to attempt to make a killing? At first, I let my faith in them, but right now, regardless of what happens to them, they deserve it. To sue one's own child after abandoning them in a deserted city? Absolutely unbelievable.